Welcome to this is actually episode 10 of the Heart of the Shaman podcast. So we've been doing this for a little bit, getting a really nice flow. And today we are focusing on the title is Nourishment and Care of the Temple. So this is Pavan and Betty G. And we are really excited to be connecting. This, as Betty was saying, this is really like probably one of the oldest holistic teachings, or just, something super basic that really does go back to the beginning of time. So nourishment and care of the temple, of course, being the physical body that houses our soul, our consciousness, all of the things. But we're not just referring to the body. It's really all the layers of our being. How can we bring nourishment to our being, and why is this essential? So I'm going to start by saying I had a really pretty cool, fun solstice event to kick off the summer with a lovely group of ladies. And that's actually what prompted this topic. By the end of that event, there were several people who were saying something that they wanted to balance, to call in more to their life right now, is a deeper sense of nourishment. And it just became really clear that, as Betty would say, when we're just phoning it in, or we are just kind of moving on autopilot with what we're doing throughout the day, we don't have the presence and the space around whatever it is that's happening to really connect with it at a deeper level. And that's where the nourishment comes from. So you might be even eating good food, or maybe you're doing something for yourself, like getting a massage, with this intention of nourishment. But again, if we're not present and we're not creating some space around it, it could be like, okay, I'm just phoning it in. I'm just, and then at the end of the day, it's almost like, where did the day go? And what did I do that had this depth to it that really nourished me at a soul level and also nourished the physical body? So there's some things we're going to talk about in terms of what you can do, and a little bit more around how this impacts us and the collective in a bigger way. And Betty, I don't know if you wanted to share some intro thoughts on this as well.
Well, people talk about nourishment, and the first thought is food or supplements, and how we prepare it and all the things that we don't eat and we do. But on a deeper level, it's nourishing your soul. The soul is living in the temple,
Yes.
and or the body is living in the spirit. Some people look at it like that, but if you don't nourish your soul, um, I feel like, there's bodies. We start with, the etheric body, and we go out, and I speak about it sometimes in readings. I see things that are in the mental body or the emotional body. And I tell people, if you don't manage this when it's in the aura, when it's outside the body, if you don't feed that desire, or if you don't squelch whatever's negative, you're going to affect your physical body. Eventually, it comes in. It doesn't
Right.
go the way around where it starts in the body and it goes out. Anything that's bothering somebody in their digestive tract or whatever, it could be something, a relationship in their life, a marriage or a parent or whatever, for 20 years. So when we talk about nourishing the the being, we're talking about your physical being, your aura, all of the different levels. So you have to have mental clarity, you have to have, knowledge, you have to have emotional healing, you have to find out in your aura where those things are out of balance. And that's where it goes back to the shamanic things that we can do, like the basics that we can do to nourish our soul. You know, that would be, I mean, even more important than the physical plant, because when you start, you can take care of your body, but if you don't take care of all of these, the karmic level and it affects, it comes through like the chakras, the transmission centers, I call it. So each of us needs to find the places where something was triggered in the outside beings, part of our being, and then work on repairing it or getting rid of it or purging it or nourishing it or nurturing it or whatever. But it's not just about food and water. And, it starts with clean, pure thought, you know, starting with thinking the right thoughts and thinking positively and reprogramming your neural pathways that have been programmed by society and your parents and your teachers and everything we've experienced in school, and to reprogram those pathways in our brain so that we don't get caught up in habits and things that are negative for us that we just do because we've always done them or our parents always did it. So I think on a level of you have to find out, do what they call soul searching or introspection, find out what your soul needs. It's as simple as that. And
Yeah.
if we try to listen to doctors and other people and take a lot of medicine and everything, all we're doing is confusing the issue. So basically just find out what your soul needs at this point in time, what we call time in the linear sense, in the third dimension, because we're going through the transition from through the fourth dimension into the fifth dimension, and the things that we don't take care of on that journey through there are going to be coming with us into the fifth dimension. So it's kind of like cleaning house, spring cleaning. Get rid of any kind of things, habits or things that are negative, and start implementing, replacing them with new ones, different ones.
Yeah. And I think this really goes back to being able to connect with our intuition and to follow that, because intuitively we know what is going to nourish our soul. But society puts us in a place where we're kind of casting our energy out of the present moment, and we're worrying, or we're trying to achieve something, or we're consuming a lot of things in terms of maybe information, media, whatever it is. And so that creates a lot of static. And like you're
Fear.
saying, it can get complicated, like the doctor and the medicine and the this, and now you read an article and on and on and on, and all of this, these potential things. But if we create that space and drop inward, it's always very individual. What may work for one person, for one thing as healing or an antidote, depending on what the situation is, we know that that may not work for another, because again, it's like there's the physical body, and we are going to talk about some of those foundational pieces too. The temple is housing us in this 3D experience, and then another piece is reciprocity. It's like the soul wants to be here and have this experience. We chose this experience. So um I think this is another thing where, like, society or whoever we may learn it from, there's a lot that we learn that creates a buffer from like really dropping in and tuning in, and that nourishing depth of whatever the experience is in the moment. So um I was going to say for example, but I think it's just more important to recognize it doesn't have to be so complicated. And the reciprocity, this is a shamanic concept too, right? It's like, think of a figure eight and it's flowing between you and even just your environment, say like at your heart space. And a lot of us, especially women, it's like, what can I give? Who can I help? What do I do next? There's a lot of focus on, I'm here to serve. How am I going to be in service? What does that look like? And there tends to be less focus on, what do I need? What's nourishing? What does my soul want in this moment? What is the journey? Like, do I even have space for maybe some of these quote deeper questions? Or even, if it's simple, you're just like eating a peach in the summer and can you You just have the five
Well, it's
minutes.
just like offering to someone, if you go to the door and they're having problems and you take them like some peaches, or you take
Yes,
a bowl of lasagna or something they can eat, and you offer your
yes,
service, you offer your help. And
yes,
even if just that gesture going out creates good vibration, and it creates that they're there if I need them, instead of you just having to have something that you can do, you just offer.
yes,
And
yes.
then you'll be used when you're needed to be used, or they'll call on you and they'll have you in the back of their mind. Oh, she said she would be there. It's not about actually doing, the actual thing at that moment. It's being available and offering your help. And
I
that's even
love that.
better, than trying to force something on someone. But people don't, they tend not to ask, they don't
Right.
want to bother people. So if we offer, then they won't feel bad asking, and that'll just give them peace. So you're gifting them with an opportunity, you know.
Yeah, this is an
And
important part of the reciprocity, right? Yeah, it's not coming from a place of, I need to do this, or I think I should do this, or something from the mind. You've made enough space to recognize, somebody needs help, or just to be in a loving space to offer, like you said, to offer something up to them. And it creates a cycle of, it's just, it's receiving and giving, giving, receiving. It's a flow that we always have, like almost like this is one of the cosmic laws, right? Like we are here on earth in this experience, and we're interacting with other people and our environment and the plants and the animals and Mother Earth and all the things. So it's not about, we're trying to hide from the experience or go through it so quickly that we can just get to the next thing. And another angle of this that I did want to talk about briefly is it's so foundational, right? To take care of the physical body, sleep, water, healthy food. And again, there's individual pieces where doing things a certain way work better for one person than for another. And that might have to do with your ancestry or your constitution or how active you are, plenty of different details. But there is a lot in our society out there about, try this diet or do this thing, or what things are getting more, I don't know, like screen time right now, like the microbiome is a big one. Um, and that's also for a reason. And so there's a piece of that that's like, oh wow, that's really cool that we're paying attention to this in a new way. But you can really go down a rabbit hole of, oh well, I think, oh, you know what, I'm having brain fog, that must be because of my microbiome, because you saw like a TikTok or something or whatever. And so now you're doing this other research, and you're asking AI, and you have a new diet, and on and on and on. And I always feel like, let's look to what people have known to do for hundreds of years, okay? So just with the microbiome as an example, because I know this is one of the hot ones. And again, it's appropriate that we're tuning into this in a deeper way, but it's also true that like we've always known it's good for the gut if we eat a diverse array of fruits and vegetables, and if we eat some fermented foods. So, what if you just tune into your intuition? And if you have a sense that there's something going on there, just start with that. It's not to say that there can't be, any research that you do. But again, we're living in a time of overconsumption, which is something I'm going to touch on a little more later. But use your intuition, keep it simple. I also,
we listen to the body.
yeah,
Listen
listen
to
to
the
the body.
body. You,
How do you
your
feel after
body
you?
tells you what it
Yeah.
needs, and if you are intuitively aware, it will tell you you need more rest, you need more water, you need less of something, you need more of this. It's we listen to outside too much. That's why
Think
we have
about
all
it.
this too much confusion in the brain of somebody
Right.
told me this, and it's overload of information, and you really don't know what you're looking at if you read what doctors read. I mean, you don't know what they're talking about. So you really start to get um, agitated, thinking there's just too many things. Do I do this or do I do that? When you calm yourself and you go inside and you, like a shamanic alignment, you go inside and say, body, what do I need to do for you? Like, what should
Yeah.
I do? What should I not do? And tell your cells, to listen to what is right for this temple. Like,
Mhm.
how can I improve and clean where I live? You know,
Right. Yeah, that's
it's
the
as simple
shamanic
as that.
piece.
I mean, people make it so difficult and they worry so much when they have too much information, you know. I mean,
It's
that's kind of a
really,
comedy. People say TMI, TMI, like when they don't want to hear something, but they need to tune all that out and not get TMI. They don't want to have too much information because, a lot of the things that we would find out, we can't do anything about anyway. We can't
right.
do surgery on ourselves. We can't do a orthopedic, reconstruction of a knee or an elbow or whatever. If you need outside help, you will obviously know it. Your body's going to tell you.
Yeah.
And it's just
Um,
hard for people not to rely on outside.
This goes back to our last topic of keeping it simple. And again, can we tune inward and trust ourselves and know that the body is always going to tell us, it always has the wisdom of what to do. And also, any intuitive information that we get, we really can follow. You know, going back to the overconsumption, it's like maybe you watch a TikTok that says you should eat a half a banana every morning because that's good for your microbiome. But like bananas make you bloated. So how long are you going to eat a half a banana and feel bloated before it's like, okay,
And
clearly
there's a lot of sugar in a
this,
banana, so
right, right.
yeah.
Uh, this is not working. So I guess, there's a place for, like, for example, AI, that's a hot topic now, right? Like, where is that going? It's come in so quickly and so strongly. And this could be a whole podcast in itself. So I won't get too off track. But um, it- our intuition is like AI. So there are some ways that it organizes information or that it can do research for you, right? That are just making things easier. And so it has its place. I mean, I wrote up a whole long blurb for this podcast and then AI put it into a nice, like, bullet pointed form. But it's still my original ideas and my intuition around, and Betty's intuition around the topic and the energy that's coming through. And so this really, the more that we trust ourselves, the more we can recognize, that we're going to know how to move in the moment. And perhaps we can start to kind of deprogram some of what makes us rush through the moment. So getting back to like the eating the juicy peach,
Mhm.
if you eat it really quick because you're on a short break and you have something else to do, or maybe you're in the school line waiting to pick up your kids and you're eating it in the car and then you're texting and you're looking at what time it is, or whatever. um there's no the depth to like knowing that you're nourishing your body at a cellular level and enjoying the flavor and the ripeness of it and the taking your time with chewing and all of these things. That's the nourishment. Like, did you really enjoy it or did you just eat it and go, oh, that tasted kind of good?
Well, part of eating is when you put something in your mouth, the enzymes under your tongue, the first place that it goes is into the saliva glands and into your bloodstream. And when you take a bite of something and you start swallowing it, the stomach goes, oh, it's a peach. It's
Yes.
coming, here comes a peach. And it knows what to put into the stomach to digest a peach. If
Right.
you just grab food and shove it in your mouth and you cram it down and you eat too fast or whatever, the stomach's going, well, what is this? And what is that? And oh my God. And it throws out 10 different things to digest the 10 different things that you put in your mouth. So the digestion process is affected if you don't chew your food slowly and let the body know what's happening. Like let the stomach know, here comes a peach. as it
Right.
starts to go into the body. And we all are guilty of, eating in a hurry or eating on the run or whatever, and that is very disturbing to the body. So, and as for AI, and I remind people this, it's like, this is not new,
Right.
not something that just came on the scene. They've been using AI for 50 years.
Yes.
This is not new. And people are all caught up in, oh, it's going to ruin everything or whatever. Half of the things that we do and enjoy are already being dealt with AI.
Right.
And
That's
it's
a good
been,
point.
it's been coming. I mean, it's part of the technological advancement that our species is going to have to deal with, you know.
Yeah.
They can take people and put a frame around a leg that doesn't work and have that person walking. Those things are going to be phenomenal. Those things that are going to be the future, like what we see in science fiction movies or whatever, where the person has a suit like Iron Man, how he puts on the suit and he can do anything inside it. Those type of things are going to be incorporated for repairing bodies and keeping people alive, life-saving tactics. But there you the only thing we have to fear, like it's been said 1,000 to 1,000,000 times, is fear itself. Because the fear, if we have fear in our being, that sets up acidic, negative grounds for
Right.
everything that we do, whether we drink or eat something. So if you just get rid of the fear and you eat something, think some farmer, grew this peach, or the water and the sun and all the beautiful thing, how pretty it is. And when you put that in your body and you think about it, close your eyes and chew it up and think, how can this be so sweet? It came off a tree. Those are the things that our bodies want in them.
And food is our most intimate experience with the environment around us. And we know that we're becoming the food at a cellular level. So
You are what you eat.
you are what you eat. It's very basic and it's going to make us think twice about certain things, perhaps. But
Mhm.
this also reminds me of one thing that I wanted to bring up because I will get this sometimes is people will be wanting to perhaps find some healing or some solutions through their spiritual practice. And they might say, hey, Pavan, what can I do? Do you have some like breathing techniques or do you have some other tools that I can do to get to this? But they are really not taking care of their physical bodies. And so it's all a balance, right? So I'm not saying this is the case all the time, but sometimes people might be looking for a shift or a healing or an answer in one place, and it's really in that foundational space. So, of
Right.
course, we want to make sure we're taking care of the body in the most basic way. If you're not exercising, let's say, and you're sluggish and there really isn't a lot of movement for the body and your diet isn't that great, whatever these things may be, honestly, you can meditate until the cows come home, and that's not going to alleviate these things. I mean, it may lead to some insight that sparks you to make changes, or you might get information from your guides, or you may just tune into your body about what you need to do or what can bring the balance. But I was telling Betty before we got started, I didn't have time to take a shower before we hopped on here. And at first I was like, oh, maybe we should, push the time a little bit. But then it was just like, okay, well, I was outside. It's like 93 degrees here in Charleston, and I have a few days a week that I like to do sprint interval training. And it's just a very like simple science-based thing. You run as hard as you can for 30 seconds and then you recover and you do it like, 4 or 5 times. Of course, you can do it in a gym on a bike or some other format. But it's really good for you. And so I just bring it up because it's like, yeah, I'm not just meditating all the time when I'm not at work doing healing sessions, etc. I started with focus on holistic nutrition years ago. And so through getting these basics of, okay, what do we do in the day to day for health and wellness? I then was able to really expand my spiritual life and practice, and it moved into these other layers. So, Betty was talking about what triggers us karmically or in relation to past lives, or, these sorts of things that, again, yes, we want to address it before it comes down into the physical and it's out there in the aura. And um, I feel like I would not have necessarily had the access that I've been able to have to these layers if I didn't have a certain amount of focus on the temple as well and just nourishing it. And, we all have our, oh, this is a hard week, or, whatever. I mean, it's just, I think it was like the 80/20 rule in the first school that I went to, where they were just like, if 80% of the time you're really sticking to these things that are good for you, and the
Mhm.
20% of the time, maybe it's like, you have some whiskey or some chocolate, or like, I don't know, like it's ice cream, or just whatever the things are. You stay up late, and what, you're on vacation and you're out until the next day. Like that part is nourishing to the soul too, right? There's a time and a place for all things. So, that just touches on not being too rigid. And maybe this is the last piece I'll say in this before like handing it over, but that rigidity can be found in how we can ruminate or get fixated on a lot of details. So if we are talking about the physical, it could be, again, to go back to that microbiome gut example. Okay, now I know what the diet is that I need, and so I eat this and this, and I eat them at this time, and if I don't do it, then this is my backup plan, and on and on and on. And again, I'm not advocating that if there isn't something along these lines that you've tuned in intuitively and you've also gotten some good information from your doctor or whatever the case may be to do and make a change, that that's not a good idea. But we can get a little bit obsessively into the details. And again, when you go back to like ancient times, people were using their intuition completely. I mean, even in other countries now, they're not like, oh, okay, well, I've got to take 9 supplements for my microbiome, which, by the way, that is not a good idea. And it's expensive. They don't even have, I'm just thinking like there's certain countries, like where are the octogenarians, right? Like, let's take ourselves to Japan for a moment. And there's plenty of people who are 100 or over 100 years old, and they're living these like quality lives. And chances are, like, you want to know what, like their diets have been that 80/20, like they've been pretty good most of their life, and they've gotten some decent sleep, and they've hydrated, and they have connections and relationships with people and nature. And they're not like, oh my God, functionally, how can I add my 16th supplement? And if I do the sauna 5 days a week or 3 days a week, and I take these supplements, and I do my red light therapy and my dry needling and my on and on and on and on. Again, anything could be the thing in an acute situation, or, follow your intuition, and maybe some of these modalities do resonate for you. I realize that we're living in the Western world, but it does get ridiculous. It gets very convoluted, and that it gets to a place where it's not nourishment. So I'll
Well,
hand it over.
an animal can have a whole field. A cow can have a pasture full of grass, like delectable, delicious meal. They're not going to eat the whole field.
Ah, yeah,
So if you go into nature and you watch animals, even if you give them more than they need, they are not going to eat it.
right.
When they eat until they're satiated, they eat until they feel like they've had enough nourishment or they feel full. With people, we have like a feel full or feel hungry signal. You feel hunger and you eat something, but most people don't turn it off. They don't stop when they're full. They eat whatever's on the plate or they eat more. So if you just connect with nature and the first thing in the morning, breathe. The first thing when you wake up, do
Yes.
fire breath for 6, 7 minutes, do any of the breathing, and you know, multitude of them, but people can just look and they can look that up on the computer. They don't even have
Yes.
to go to somebody. They can do that on with guidance and do qigong or something and leave the phone to the side. Don't start your day on electronics. Just put music on and eat your breakfast, or don't eat until maybe like 10 o'clock or something. You know, intermittent fasting is really popular now, and that's not new. That's what animals do. That's what nature does. If there's not enough of something, they eat less of it. They make it last. They forage around. They go and find more. So we don't have to have huge quantities of things to nourish our body. We can have time in between where it's resting and it's cleansing itself and it's you know, do something that gets your body moving, like your circulation. And cold showers are fabulous. Like if you take a hot shower and you clean your body and then just turn the water down gradually, as you know, I do, let it get cooler and cooler and then cold, and just let your whole body stand under the cold water for just long enough to take it. It's easier to do it that way than to jump into a cold shower. But what that does is exercises the capillaries and the blood vessels and the arteries. And it when it's hot, they open up, and when it's cold, they constrict and they close. So it's exercising the walls of our arteries and our circulatory system. So cold, you know, hot shower and then cold, or if you can take a cold shower or a cool plunge, like in hot tub and then cold plunge, you're telling your body, you know, you need to use those vessels. If they're clogged up or they're stiff or they're not open, our bodies are not getting oxygen into the areas that it needs to go in our circulatory system. That's why it's all over the body. And the same thing with, you know, don't just grab something to eat. If you don't eat until 10 o'clock, take something with you, take an apple, go someplace and get something light the first time you feel hunger. But people are on schedules. They do breakfast, lunch, dinner. They wake up at 6 o'clock, they go to bed at 10 o'clock. If you're not tired, don't go to bed. Don't try to go to sleep and frustrate yourself. Do something else until you feel tired and then lie down and go to sleep. We put ourselves on schedules like for
Right.
ridiculously glued or fixed with these organized linear things. That's not how humans were designed. We didn't have clocks, we didn't have schedules, we didn't have appointments. You know, when we woke up, if we were hungry, we ate. If we were tired, we slept. If we're thirsty, we drank. And that's what the natural world does. So if we go out in nature and observe that and don't think about having to eat, enjoy the process. You know, make your food lovingly and take your time and sit down and say, oh my God, this came off a tree, this came off a bush, this came out of the ground, this came out of another tree, and this was, and nothing out of a box. Nothing that the industrial food industry, that whole thing screwed up our bodies because they're keeping it in the box longer. If it's not going to be lasting in your kitchen or in your pantry, it's not supposed to be there 2 years. You're supposed to consume it.
Right.
So you only buy what you need and you put it in your refrigerator in your pantry. And when you're ready to eat and you're making something out of what you have and healthy things, and you don't allow yourself to put those things that are microwaved and quickly cooked and, you know, instant oatmeal or whatever. There's nothing better than a pot of really good rolled oats cooked for, you know, 10 minutes in a pot. And I don't care if it's instant. I'll wait the 10 minutes. I'll do something else during the time, but I enjoy the way it comes out when you cook it on a stove, you know. And I've never liked microwaves. I've never wanted to use them that much, but um, why do we have to make everything happen instantly?
Yes.
If we're
You know,
cramming in 12 hours of life in 4 hours, don't do that. It's
right.
simple. decision. Do what you can, and the rest goes to the next day. It'll
Part
wait very nicely for you, believe me.
Yeah, and part of what I thought was so appropriate with this coming through from that solstice event. I mean, we're celebrating summer and the beginning of the season, and this is really a season where if you can have more fun, do it. But we see in nature that things are less in survival mode in the summer. You know, there's an abundance most of the time, depending on the climate we're talking about, of, you know, there's more food that's outside. And so the days are longer, there's more sun, there's more space, I guess you could say, for activity. So the general kind of vibe is like vitality, energy, you know, like fertility even. And then this having more fun. It's like, okay, well, most of the time we take vacations in the summer, right? Like kids get out of school or you have something scheduled. And granted, like we may still be working and doing these other things as well, but what I feel like was coming up was people were saying, hey, I'm recognizing I haven't been fully nourishing myself, and it's like the light of the summer and the solstice and the change of seasons, it was shining a light on that, like, okay, let's honor the light within and our intuition and really come into a space where we can take a little bit more time doing whatever it is we're doing and not cram the, like you're saying, the 12 hours into 4 hours of a day, and get back to enjoyment and joy also. And I'm sensitive to, I recognize when I say that, like we're all having different experiences at any given point in our lives. So you could be going through something hard where you're not necessarily going to be as joyful than if that wasn't your experience. But assuming you're, you know, you're still in this season of summer, there's room for it. There's moments, there's little tiny spaces, no matter what the experience we're moving through, where we can connect with that joy and that gratitude. And when I was thinking about what can we do, like what are sort of like the action steps or those bullet points for what we can do to get this deeper nourishment and care of the temple of the body in the day to day, or perhaps to balance it a little bit more. And this is something that I think we've brought up in several of the podcasts also. But getting into a space of gratitude was really one of those things that was at the top of the list. And I think that, you know, sometimes we're in it if, you know, you're with like a baby or a puppy, or, you know, maybe you're in an environment in nature that just creates like awe and inspiration, like this waterfall back here. But
Beautiful.
you can also conjure up a memory, you know, if it's not something that's in your experience or you're not feeling it in that moment. And that vibration can bring us to a more nourishing space. Um, so that
When
was one of the
you say,
things.
I don't have time, think of that.
Yes.
And if you really analyze that, I don't have time. I can't make oatmeal for 10 minutes because I don't have time. Well,
Right.
you will sit around sometime during that day for that 10 minutes doing nothing somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say, you have time. It's how
Hmm.
you choose to spend it. And so being wise enough to say, I'll catch that 10 minutes down the line. I'm going to use it right now to nourish myself and my body. I'm going to sit here and calmly eat my oatmeal, and I will make up for that time because we have it in our account every day. We have 24 hours that we can use to our discretion, right? So if you think about it, the you just sit and enjoy your food or whatever when you get up and go out. You have, it's like a truck driver on a road. When it's bad and it's bad weather, they slow down and they have to, and when it's wide open and clear, they make up that time. That's like airplanes. That's what they do when they're having, storms. They go around them and they go below them or above them or whatever, and they get through the rough spot and then they power down and make up what time they lost having to slow down. So you have to kind of manage your account. It's like a bank account. We're given time and we just have to take it. If you don't want to sleep through your breakfast, or if you want to eat early or whatever, you arrange how you get up and what you get things ready the night before. We have choices. This is
Yes.
not a victim status, like we are
No.
forced to eat and have to go to do this or whatever. If you're tired and you lay down for 15 minutes, I guarantee the rest of your day will go better. If you don't honor that and you go out, you start getting fatigued sooner and you're angry. There's a level inside that says, I'm tired, I need to rest, I should have done this, I could have slept longer, whatever. Just lay down, close your eyes, and relax. Even if you don't go to sleep, you recharge your body, you recharge your system. You don't try to beat a horse and ride it until it stops and dies. How are you going to keep going on that horse?
You
If you
know,
just keep riding and don't give it water and don't rest it, what's going to happen to the horse, right?
right.
So you have to liken your temple to it's a thing around you that keeps your soul running around doing what it's doing. And you have to honor the cycles. And then, like you don't, if you're not sleepy at 10 o'clock, stay up and do some paperwork or something, or, do meditate or whatever you want to do until your body's ready to relax, instead of laying in bed and thinking about the past and thinking about the future and worrying about not going to sleep. You just have to adjust like a sailboat. You have to adjust the sails. You have to think of what the climate is around you and what you can do with it. And it's all about choices in my mind. We have a choice. We always have a choice. Doesn't matter if there's not something on a table that you want to put in your body, you don't eat. If you go to
Right.
a buffet and you look at it and you say, well, I don't do well with cucumbers and that's going to make me have, belch. And if I don't like hummus and and you go, if you don't see something that your body wants to have in it, don't eat. That's a
Right.
choice, right? I mean, it's simple, but people are, I have to have lunch. It's 12 o'clock. I'm on my break. I have to have lunch. I have to do this. I have to do that. It's like somebody's got a whip behind us telling us, do this right now and do that right now, or I'm going to beat you up. I don't like to see that in people.
Yeah. And
I
what's
don't,
coming to me as you're bringing that up is I love the healing work that I do, and I have a lot of compassion in all instances, but there's also a tough love aspect that does come out. And that would be related to what you're saying, because we always have choices. That does not mean that I can't be in a space of compassion around whatever choice has been, made, or meeting someone where someone's at, of course. But we're not victims. There always is a choice in every instance. And in
yeah.
fact, what Betty's saying, it's like we literally call it a lifetime. It's like, do you want to experience a lifetime of nourishment where you take care of the temple, where you respect your body and you respect the earth? Usually there is a connection, right? Like if we're respecting the physical body, that extends to care for others and for their physical experience and care for the earth as well. And so, do we want to be in a space of nourishment and this care of the temple? Or how do you want to spend your lifetime? Many people have said on their deathbeds, in terms of certain regrets, that it's connected to, I wish I said I'm sorry, or I spent more time with that person, or sometimes there's bucket list things like I wish I did that. And it's not, of course, about analyzing that, but when we have certain things that are going to nourish our soul, it's a full picture, the taking care of the body in order to carry those things out. And again, like really giving our soul the lifetime that it signed up for. Like, I don't know if that sounds a little bit weird, but it's like, again, we're here. We wanted to be here. Let's not fritter it away. Like, yes, you have 10
Well,
minutes.
like we talked about, making it simple and keeping it
Yeah,
easy and
yeah,
simple. If you just take that route, then do you really need the strife and the stress and the trouble if like just make choices that make it simple,
And
you
we
know?
also recognizing that in the Western culture, a bid for your well-being typically comes from you. It's not set up to have everyone else watching out for your mental health and your emotional health and your physical health. Like, you might work for a corporation that's happy to run you into the ground, and maybe they have some good benefits that you might not ever get to enjoy. So it's important to recognize that a lot of times we can rationalize, okay, well, I just have to do this now for something else later. Or, yeah, I only have this much time, so I'll eat this or I'll do that. And all these little choices along the way, that's making up our lifetime.
Yeah.
So again,
Like I said, it's like a bank account. You have a certain amount of days and hours and how we measure time in this
right.
reality. But when you're having a good time and you're drinking or eating something that just really fulfills you, or you're with people that you like to be, it seems like time stands still,
Yes.
goes forever. But if you're waiting, in a hospital for somebody who's in surgery, you look at the clock and it's like it's not moving. It's like, oh my God, this is taking forever. And it's the same hour that you enjoyed in a different way. And so a lot of it is your mindset and like how you approach it when you make those choices. And I'm going to eat this and it's good for me and I'm going to feel great. And, I'm not going to have that because that would have repercussions or whatever. And we are not, um, we're not in jail where they give us a meal and if we don't eat it we don't get anything else that day. You can adjust pretty much everything. I've seen
Right.
people do it and I always admire them. Like no matter what they're doing, they get cleaned up, they get dressed, they take time for their constitution, they exercise. But I've watched you do that, where you bring food to work instead of eating out and you bring healthy things and you plan your day. And I always think they're so together, those people that they have the right idea of how to take care of themselves. They think about what they're going to do when they're out. Instead of buying McDonald's, they take a bowl of brown rice and some veggies. And these choices that I've started living like that more, um, especially if you don't have to take care of someone else. If it's just you, we have so many choices. It's just endless. So if you look at
Yeah.
a bank account that has an infinite supply of choices and decisions that you can make for your life and yourself, it's just discernment. It always goes back to discernment. You have to really look at that and say, is this what I want to put in my body or put on my body or do to my body or whatever? You look at the plate and you say, this is going to be good for me and I'm eating it with gratitude. And when you take that into your body, I just feel like the original pattern or blueprint that we come in this world with is being respected.
Right.
It's been, um, we're looking at what our body needs. We're evaluating it. We're making decisions. We're not just feeling like, oh, somebody's watching, I better eat that, or somebody gives us something, we better eat it. I'm sorry, my allergies are kicking in. But again, about discernment and simplicity and putting crystals on your body and the oils and the things that that balance your being in what you like, burning sage or palo santo or spraying um, something in the air or whatever, changing our environment. Any of those things like that we do all contribute to the well-being of our temple.
Yes.
So, not too much sun, a little bit of sun is great. You need the vitamin D. It's great for you. It's good to get it in your eyes. It's good to be in the sun, but not too much. So everything in moderation and simple. And I think that people that live like that, and I've done that, like in the Ayurvedic diet and lifestyle or macrobiotics, there's certain things and you adhere to that. And honestly, I didn't really miss a lot of other things, you know, but they talk about eating locally grown, think local or think global, eat local, that type of thing. Don't eat oranges from Morocco when you're in Charleston, like try to get something that's locally grown. If you have oranges where you are, bananas or whatever, they're there for a reason. And I mean, the food industry itself, the amount of money you spend to eat a meal out, and you don't know how it's prepared, you don't know the oils they use, you don't know where they buy their fish, you don't know if it's sourced properly, and you spend a lot more money eating out than you would if you bought groceries with that money and ate at home, and you can control what you put in your body. So unfortunately, instead of eating to live, a lot of people live to eat.
Right.
And that's not a healthy way to go.
So when I tuned in to what can we do for this nourishment, there was like five things that came to me. And one was making space and time for intuition, which is connected to slowing down, which we talked about last time. But this is connected to recognizing that we do have choices. And if we make a little space and time for our intuition, we know how to move forward and navigate. The other was gratitude, which we touched on, getting into that vibration, just really connecting with the nourishment of the good things in this life and allowing ourselves to be in a receptive energy and to fully experience it. Um, Another was I'm going to say it's kind of like the biology of belief. If some of you have read the book by Bruce Lipton, if not, I recommend that. But this is not something that we touched on as much this time, but what's our mindset and recognizing that the subconscious mind, this is another one of those things that could be a whole episode, but the subconscious mind sometimes can run the show, and that can be connected to some of the choices that we make when we're a little bit more on autopilot that might not always be coming from the best place or a nourishing place. So starting to recognize that like thoughts and our thought programs have a lot to do with how we navigate throughout the day. That's a piece that as we delve more into it, we really can connect with more nourishment in our experience. The consumption piece, I don't know
Mhm.
if that was all five of them. But this we were touching on more in the beginning, and it's really just what Betty was saying, like, hey, leave your phone over here, start the day with the breath work, and, like, don't go right to something that is going to inevitably put you in a space of consumption. So, this is old news for all of us. There's just a lot of overconsumption in our society, the news, the social media, all the things. We have discussed it a lot. And it's making me think of the deck that I have out back and of our house. And it's like every night I sit out on that deck. I could be like, I have done this before also, but generally I'm not. But like I could be watching Netflix, or I could be, sitting out there and still consuming, or, listening to a podcast or whatever. And like, again, I do those things. There's a time and a place. But when I'm out there, there's so much to connect with in the environment and in nature. I've got my bird feeders out. I've got the hummingbirds. I've got all the wild birds. There's hawks flying overhead. The last couple of nights, the sky has been so clear. There's so many stars out there. The days are a lot longer right now. So you can just be out there longer in the evenings. But I don't feel like I have to do something else besides just like sometimes I do a little yoga and then I'm, relaxing in the lounge chair or whatever. And it's a good way to decompress, but also there's a nourishment, there's a soul nourishment there. So it'd be easy for me to fill that time or space with something where I'm like doing chores or I'm consuming whatever I don't need to be consuming. And really, it's like, okay, let me be receptive. Let me just listen to what nature has to say to me, to what the environment has to say. Let me enjoy it. Let me connect with it. Like maybe I go down and I do some work in the garden or whatever, but I do that every day. I mean, and if it's raining or we're getting a hurricane or something, then we have a front porch that has a roof on it. So I'll sit out on the front porch and, it's a different experience, but it still allows me to
Well,
be out
it goes
there.
back to the cow and the pasture. You have 1,000 things you could do. If you go in the house, you can look up 100 things on the internet. You can confuse yourself with,
Right,
you can eat, you can do, but just because that pasture is there doesn't mean that you have to partake, right?
right.
So when you put yourself out there, that's getting in touch with, your needs, and if you do need something, you really can focus on it and go and get it. But you're resting, you're connecting with nature. You're saying, this is a time where I can observe instead of, it's like we're human beings, not human
Yes.
doings. We don't always have to be doing, you know, and just
Oh,
being and observing and being part of that and watching other things happen it's like it's just a beautiful feeling, that you don't have to partake, you don't have to, you know, um, you don't have to do anything, you just have to be, and you're present in that space in that moment. And sometimes your thoughts will, go back or forward, or to, if you see something happen with an animal, you'll think about that. But it's a way of tuning into nature. And each animal has a temple just like we do. Each
hmm.
animal, um, each tree, every living thing around us, it goes by the same principle: simplicity, repetition, you know, knowing in the blueprint of being a human being when we came here that we have certain things that we have to do. We have to have food, we have to have water, we have to have rest, we have to have activity, exercise. But it's really pretty basic, you know. You don't have to buy every piece of exercise equipment on the planet. It's just
Right.
oversupply, of everything. So just simplify your life, wake up and do a routine of some kind to bring your body into alignment with movement and doing what it's going to do that day, refreshing it, maybe a shower in the morning or something. But start out observing, you know, like go out the door and start observing what's going on around you.
You know what's interesting too is that so the fifth thing is really have more fun, which we did touch on, but
Mhm.
this is included in that. Like I feel like when there's space to just be and observe and take things in, that is fun. It's nourishing. Like it sounds kind of nerdy when I say it. Like it all it also could be fun to do something more, active and engaging and, maybe you meet a friend and you go to lunch and you go to the beach or, that's on my list of fun too. But what's fun about this is it's that deep nourishment and there's more to be discovered, but there's nothing to do. It's kind of magical. Like you can just be. You literally don't have to take some type of action or think certain thoughts or whatever. But in that space of observing and receptivity, there's a lot that can unfold. And it's not even, there's no attachment to what that is or if it happens or whatever. But it's a very like rich space. And I know that I've had a lot of like fun and discovery in that space as well. So,
Like when you went on your trip, it's like when you don't have the routine of your grind, where you have to do something every day, or what day you're going to have to do it, or whatever. When you're on vacation, or when you're, like sometimes some people wake up and my daughter would say, I want to do everything we can do while we're here. Or, I don't
yeah.
want to do anything right now. I'm just going to lay here and look at the ocean. And, you have that beautiful choice, And so if you have to do something mundane and you have to do something, you liven it up, make it better, find a way to enhance your surroundings where you do it. You know, enjoy it. Don't think of it as work. Think of it as a labor of love, something that you're gonna benefit from down the line. So whether you're nourishing your spirit or your emotions or your mental learning, these are all the bodies that we have coming in from the outside, like from the spirit. Um, when you get down to the physical body, if we don't nourish all those other bodies or parts of our being, then the physical body is confused because where our aura is part of us. So all of these different things need to be fed, they need to be nourished, they need to be hydrated, they need to be whatever it is like you do with your physical body. You have to think about each of those bodies. Maybe you need to do some shadow work on your karmic level. Maybe you need to do more physical. Maybe you need to do more emotional healing. Maybe you need to rest more with your emotional feelings and respect them more. Maybe you need to learn something, but these are all part of the complexity of a human being, this aura. And they said, the Buddha, I mean, Yogananda, when he was in the United States, there were people that said that his aura was a city block long. And some of us have like 3 feet, and some of our auras are like 30 feet.
Right.
And when you read people's energy, you can see where some people are expanded and some people have huge aura and others are very tight and very close, to the physical being. So there's aspects of ourself that we need to, like, if you're feeling sad, put on some music, sad music, and cry. There's a
Yeah.
reason we cry. When you cry, and interesting, that something I learned not too long ago, that happy tears taste different than sad tears. And I had
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had no idea, but like when you feel like you don't know something and your mental body is troubled by something, go and research it, sit down and look it up, and feed that hunger for that knowledge. So you're nourishing the entire, being. And like I said, the breath work is essential to connect the circulatory system with, hot and cold, the exercise, moving and stretching our muscles, and all of the things that we already know. We don't have to buy gadgets and gizmos. You can do yoga. Yoga will adjust 10 of these things. If you do yoga, you cover all the things that I just mentioned.
Right. Like I have, been a member of a gym here and there over time, but ultimately I usually end up working out from home. And I did those sprints earlier today. That's literally just running as hard as I can down the street that I live on and then running back and recovering. And it's like, I have a few weights here. I do yoga most days. The breath work you can do. So of course, if you have a friend you're working out with or you want the community aspect or whatever, like the gym can be great. But like you're saying, as far as gizmos or programs or extra things, like there isn't anything that you need to pay for in order to do
And
this.
there's no excuse not to do it. Like I
Yeah.
said, when you have that time, you find people standing around or sitting around and you think, and you say you don't have time. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying that it's just other people. I'm saying, me. But you you will have, if you make time, you will have time to rest. You will have time to make food. You will have time to work out. You have to rearrange chunks of time a little bit sometimes. Just be ingenious. You have this brain and you can figure it out. You're not a victim. You have the ability to fix these things before they get into your physical body. as an illness, or you manifest something that you can't ignore. If you
So,
manifest something you can't ignore and you have to deal with that, like I have a friend who worked really hard, and I kept saying, you need to retire, you need to enjoy your life. You work so hard and you have so much, and you need to go ahead and retire and take some trips and enjoy your life. You've always been so dedicated, and now he is ill, and he has something that is not reversible, and he's not going to be able to use his body. He's always been physical and totally worked out like a maniac because his dad died of a heart attack. And I kept saying, you have to stop. Don't do that. Enjoy life. And now he's retired, has everything he ever hoped to have, and he's ill. And he tells me, I keep hearing your voice saying that to me. I keep
mm,
hearing that you warned me and you tried to advise me and you tried to help me by saying, enjoy right now what you've worked for. Don't try to do it longer. Don't try to do more. And now he's not going to be able to do that. So
it,
you have to really respect that. You have to think, how important is what I'm doing?
it
You
really
know,
highlights the intuition piece. Like we all do have the answers for ourselves and what makes sense for our well-being, but we might follow it or not follow it. So, you can get away with a little bit of that here and there, but ultimately, like you said, there in certain instances there just really isn't an excuse. And sometimes there's something deeper to uncover and a healing that allows us to move forward. But in closing, for my end, I want to say having more fun feels like, I mean, at least it's summer. So, for those of you who are tuning in, and that's the case in this hemisphere,
hang out with some
um,
kids.
yeah, like if you haven't put a vacation on your calendar, even if it's just a long weekend or whatever, it's great for mental health to have whatever it is to look forward to. If you live in an area like where you can enjoy the outdoors, even if it's just on the weekend or in the evenings, again, now that the days are longer, I mean, I try to get to the beach almost every Sunday in the summer, and some days, some weeks I go twice a week. I do spend a fair amount of time under the umbrella. But going in the ocean, walking along the beach, just uh, again, it's your lifetime. So, how do you want to spend it? I think like lightening things up and really getting out there and having some fun is that deeper nourishment that can be a great takeaway for all of us.
One of the best things I saw the other day on the internet, this man, it was raining like crazy, and there were puddles on the sidewalk where they kind of went down. The sidewalk kind of dipped, and there was this big puddle. And this man came out the door with his little girl. She was probably 2 or 3. And he runs over and he gets on the sidewalk and he starts splashing the water with his feet. And yeah, yelling. And she looked at him like, and then he brought her over and he showed her, splash, do it. And she was looking at it like she's probably not supposed to step in puddles, right?
Right.
Like you go around it or they lift her over. And he was just splashing, and and the squeal that she let out was primitive. It was just like, this is so cool. And my dad's doing it too. And she was splashing. And that is just what I'm talking about. Take that moment,
Hmm.
be like a child, let that child express what they would do. If they want to scream, if they want to squeal, and it is fun, do it. Enjoy it all.
Yes.
It goes by quickly.
Right. So, thank you all for joining us, for tuning in, and I'll put some of those suggestions below if you have any questions or if there's any topics that you'd like us to delve into further. Always up for feedback, and we both enjoy that. And I'll put our information below the podcast. Also, you can contact Betty for a psychic reading. I'm mostly doing my sessions local in Charleston, but I do some virtual work also. And Betty, if you have the closing.
I do. So may we meet again. Hopefully, all of you will join us, and we'll try to keep it interesting. So may we meet again, sit in circle, tending our hearts, cultivating our shared love and joy, supporting the ascension of our beautiful planet. Until then, our light to yours.
Aho.
Aho.
Thank you.